AITA. For context, we were out drinking and having a fantastic night talking about all of our future plans together and how we want to live together and more and more. This talk and love was going on until about 1:20 a.m. At about 1:30, after my GF, and I have had a bunch to drink already, we went to go into another bar and we usually wait for each other at the door to give the person our ID, and then we will walk together. She did not do that this time. She handed the guy her ID and started walking to her friends and put her hand out behind her to grab mine. Only problem was I was still at the door and she unknowingly grabbed someone else's hand and walked with him a good distance, and only actually noticed after I finally got past the door guy and ripped the dude's hand away. I told her what she did and tried to drop it and put my hand on her back like I usually do to motion us towards her friends. She started to cry and say I was shoving her and started to leave the bar, saying it was my fault for not being behind her and that I should have been there. Then things escalated where I was drunk and pissed that not only is she not taking accountability, but she's also instead blaming it on me for it happening to begin with. We were both yelling at each other on the way up to her apartment on the 3rd floor, and more yelling continued in her apartment. She then told me that she has already been in an abusive relationship and doesn't need to do that again. Again, I put a single hand on her back like I've done for our entire relationship and tried to motion us both towards her friends after just mentioning what she had done. Now this is where I escalate things after being put on that level when I've never even been in an actual physical fight with another person. There really isn't an aggressive bone in my body, and I'm the son of a cop and have a degree in criminal justice, so her saying those things to me when I've never done anything to ever hurt her really bothered me. I only know how to process anger enough to never hurt another person. However, I am very passionate, and I did push her bedroom door open with more force than usual, and I did kick her wall. I still intentionally aimed my foot at a reinforced area as to not cause damage in the wall one. My foot hurt so bad after. I was also wearing a cheap plastic Christmas necklace, the light-up bulbs one, and I took it off and threw it on the ground. I was just so angry that she would put me on that level and still continued to say everything that night was my fault. The bulbs all broke apart on the floor. I realized I shouldn't have done it immediately. It's just a poor anger management that I used to do as a kid when playing video games. I picked up all the pieces that I broke and threw them away. She then told me she hopes she cuts herself on all the glass that I just shattered on the ground. Again, it was just plastic and immediately got picked up. Now at this point there's not really any more yelling and things were starting to die down, but someone at her apartment complex got a little hasty and called the police for an argument. We were in a college town right next to the busiest street, so it wasn't a surprise to me that the police got called. They knocked, I answered, and they said they got a call about an argument, but they didn't really hear anything on their way up, and they just asked if all was good, and my GF recommended to the police that her and I separate. I was pretty baffled she'd say that, even if the police were going to suggest it anyways. But her saying it just kinda broke my heart. She decided then that I should just get all my stuff and leave, because it was my fault the police showed up, and she can't have that in her life. I tried to help her understand that for an argument, both parties have to be participating, but she wouldn't have it. I just had to leave, and so that's what I did. Cut to a day and a half later, because when she's upset at me, she doesn't want to work on things but instead wants to take time and revisit later. I understand that philosophy, but you don't need days away from your partner though. Few hours or just the rest of the night at best. I asked her if she wanted to talk and she gave me a time that she would be free, and I accepted and waited. I told myself that this girl was worth it a while ago, and despite everything, I was going to try for her because something just felt right with her. I had a rough couple weeks because there is just medical stuff going on with me right now, and I felt like she's been starting to resent me and hold me to a lesser priority than she used to, so I wanted to address those issues. However, the time comes around to meet to have an extremely important conversation about our relationship and future, and she told me she has to finish eating dinner and then help her friend make flashcards for an exam. Both things I feel like could have been done a little earlier for the sake of her being here when she said she would, which happened a few times. I took this as a sign and ended things not like a grown-up but over text. It was still respectful ending, but I just didn't use my voice to say it. I just couldn't do it anymore. It felt like we had such an amazing relationship until she says things and does things out of anger that you can't come back from. If you're thinking earlier she said to get all my things and leave, doesn't that mean you aren't together? She told me that she just said separate and that I just decided to gather all my things, and maybe I did. Anymore at this point. But regardless, at that time the relationship was not over. And not even on my breakup text was the relationship over. I'm a hopeless romantic. I don't believe it's love unless I try my hardest to make it work. She was still arguing with me over text and still seemed passionate in some way about the relationship, so I said we could talk then and see what's up. She then started to ghost me and not talk to me at all, which was so confusing because I thought she wanted to fix things. She also made some post about forgiving herself for allowing her to be with someone that lets her go that easily, like what, so I wanted to give her that effort that she wanted, I guess. And I went out to the bars to look for her out of love and passion for our relationship. I also just knew that she is spiraling with everything going on in her life, and I promised her I would be there for her. I went to every bar looking for her and didn't find her. I was giving up and going back to my car when I saw her and her friend laughing and walking my way. I was so glad I found her. She saw me, looked at her friend, they laughed and ran down the block and hid in a bathroom of a bar. I didn't run after them. She was drunk and again made a decision that she couldn't take back. I decided our relationship was fully and completely over at that point, so I went into her apartment, grabbed the rest of my things that I needed for the next day, and then I left for good. I get how that sounds, going into her apartment when she's not there and we're not together anymore, but I didn't think anything of it because our relationship wasn't a bad relationship at all. I just think alcohol is not something she needs in her life right now, and I didn't want to see her and I didn't know if I'd ever get any of that back. I could have walked in, grabbed my stuff and left, and she would have had no idea I was there to begin with, but again, hopeless romantic. I wrote on a sticky note that I went to her out of passion and she can no longer say I let her go easily. Fast forward to 2:30 a.m. She's calling me nonstop telling me I better pick up, and I answered and she starts her sentence off, "Explain to me how you got in dash." I hung up. I had a final and didn't have time for those games. She then called me nonstop for the next hour and texting me, but I was asleep. I wake up in the morning, go and take my final, come home, check my voicemail. I have a voicemail from the police department, basically saying I have to make a statement. The girl who I loved and made every effort for called the police because I grabbed the remaining items of mine from her apartment. I didn't break in or pick a lock or do anything crazy. I went from door to bathroom to sticky note to door. Oh, and I didn't want to anyway, message her anymore because she blocked me on everything she had. I was drunk in love with this girl because she knew how to make me feel important and wanted, and I was hoping she would realize how different she started to treat me. I'm not sure what I'm hoping to get out of this. Maybe reassurance that I did the right thing, or I have no clue. I just know that I'm fully and mentally checked out of the relationship because of all that, and I just have been thinking about it and want to see some other perspectives.